Hello. Hey guys, it is Adam with LFG Nexus, and we are here doing Storytellers Live. So we are running a little bit late. Well, to be honest, I was looking for a picture, and I just was really struggling to find it. So today we're doing something a little different. We have Debbie Rickerson Pass today, and she's actually going to interview me. So we're going to try things a little bit different. To be honest, hearing everybody's stories is just kind of made me really kind of want to put my own stories out there. And so, very excited to do that. We'll have her kind of, ask questions, and kind of take me down the rabbit path like we used to do for her and the other people that have done this in the past. So, I hope you guys are ready and interested. So what we'll do is we're actually going to make things a little bit different this time. Again, the whole point of this is to really show people about these different LARPs and why they're important, why people have fun with them, and just trying to get people more interested in coming out to play. Now, again, we don't particularly care which one you go to. We just want you to go out and have fun. We're coming from the level of just more LARPers is a good thing. So that's kind of where we are in regards to that. So with that being said, what I'll do is I'm going to pay the bill real fast, and then we'll come back and we'll have kind of Debbie start up. So here we go.
People everywhere are discovering how 5G can change their lives. But Apartments.com has changed millions of renters' lives by helping them get into new homes. So we already knew all about the power of 5G. We've had it in every town and city for years. And also 6G and 4C and 2R and 7L. What else would you expect from the site with the most listings anywhere? Apartments.com, the most popular place to find a place. Hello.
Hey guys, and let's go ahead, and this is Debbie again. If you guys weren't here, she actually came on and she gave like some amazing stories, and she was just like an amazing person to interview and get involved in this. And so I'm very happy that she was willing to come back and kind of interview me at this time. And yes, if you're ready, we can go ahead and get started.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can hear me. That's the first thing I have to ask, right?
Yep.
Okay. And I've known you for a super long time. So the first thing I do want to ask is, how did you get started LARPing? What was your experience the first time at a LARP?
So, the first time I actually started LARPing, I wasn't really LARPing. I was, I guess, like 16 or 17 years old. And one of my good friends who actually sat behind me in high school, we played a lot of D&D and tabletop games and stuff like that. And we were playing Vampire the Masquerade. And he bought, I guess, some book. And in the book, it talks about kind of how to have like your own like game where it's like you actually go and you play as a person and that sort of thing. So my first experience playing LARP was this friend of mine. His father owned a old warehouse off of a place called Cobb Parkway, which is a very busy place in Marietta, Georgia. It runs parallel to one of the big things out there, one of the big highways. And so what he did was he was like, hey, meet me there at like 7:00 on a Saturday night. And so the people that I hung out with were, if you're into Vampire the Masquerade, they're kind of the bourgeois clan. They were kind of the punks and into music and had long hair and stuff like that. And so it started there. So what happened was my friend, he put a sign on the side of the road on Cobb Parkway, this hugely busy highway, and it said Club Ragnarok, and it had a little arrow where you're supposed to turn. So we were like, okay, cool. We went there. He told us where the little warehouse was, and we got there and we went in, and everything was good. And he had interesting stuff set up, and he really like went out of his way to kind of help create characters for us and stuff like that. And so again, I was probably 16 or 17, and at that time I was a smoker. So it was probably in, it was early 90s. Yeah, it was early 90s. And what happened was a few of us decided to go outside to smoke. Once, when we went outside to smoke, all of a sudden, 3 cop cars come around the turn. They open up their car doors. They get behind the doors, and they actually draw their weapons. And we're like, whoa. We're all, I think I was one of the oldest ones there. I was like 17. And we're just like sitting there smoking. Like we have no weapons or anything like that. They start screaming at us or like, get on the ground, blah, blah, blah. They didn't know what was going on. We were kind of dressed. I think a few people even got like a little bit of fangs or even like a little thing of blood. And so then they had us get up. They frisked us, all sorts of stuff. It was crazy. Like it all worked itself out. But they're like, don't put signs like that on Cop Parkway. So that's how the cops found out about us. They're like, what is this new club? What's going on? And we didn't start till like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So this is probably towards like the fall area. It was it's probably the summertime because we were all wearing like t-shirts and stuff. But so that was kind of the first experience with trying to kind of LARP. But the actual first experience was going out to Solar back in about 1994. My first experience LARPing was I heard about it for a little bit from some of my friends. Again, this guy that was doing this vampire thing, he was one of them. He had played Solar for a couple of events before I had, and there's another gentleman that we were also very, very good friends with, and he, I won't say his name, but he's very tall. He's kind of known for that, and so I was talking to the 2 of them, and they're like showing me like this other rule book from like Nero, and they're like, it's not quite this, a little bit different, but they convinced me to come out, and there's a whole long story to like the first event that I had. I'm not sure if you want to hear the whole thing, but to tell you a little.
Does it beat the DIY your own LARP and almost get arrested for having an illegal raid off of Parkway? Because
no, not the ones getting arrested part.
But still, it might be interesting. You tell me if you want to talk about it, you can. Otherwise,
sure. So my first event. So actually, even prior to that, I used to go to a place called Qzar up in Marietta, which is where I grew up. And so Qzar was a laser tag place. And me and my friends, we would go up there all the time. And so at Qzar, we ran into these 2 gentlemen by the names. I'll just give the first name. One was Bill. The other guy's name was Lamont. And so we were playing laser tag, and all of a sudden, just like one day, we're like smoking outside, and they started telling us about they told us about Solar, about Solar. But they also told us that at the other Qzar in like, I guess Roswell, that some of the other people were there and that sort of thing. So we were actually pretty good at Qzar, and we would actually, we're friends with all the people, and so we decided to go over to like the one over in it's called
Roswell Road, or
so it's just outside 285. Right now it's over by to give just a free shout out, Battle and Brew. It's basically where the Tuesday morning is. Right. And so we went out there. We were meeting people, and we were playing, we were having fun, and there was this one woman that was running the front desk, and she apparently was also like big into Solar. Her name was Leslie. Yep. And so I was just talking to her one day, and somehow some of the D&D books kind of came up, and so we were talking about some of the D&D books, and I've always been a big fan of Drizzt. So for those that aren't familiar with it, he's a dark elf warrior, and so she was like, well, typically, our dark elves are capped. There's only a certain number of people that can play them, but she's like, well, if you want to, though, I'll let you play one if you want. I was like, okay, that's cool. That sounds great. Thank you. And so when I actually went out with my friends to the first event, I didn't think about it. I didn't have the makeup. I was a little nervous. And so she went to make my character and check me in. She's like, you're still going to play like a Dre. So basically because Drow is trademarked, I believe it's trademarked, they use the term Dre instead. So they're like, you're going to play a Dre warrior. I'm like, oh, well, I ain't bringing makeup stuff. She's like, well, if you need to, you borrow some just for for the first event. She was really nice about it. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep it simple. Just give me a human warrior, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. And so I had the option, but I never actually did it. So it was fine. But my taller friend, he set me up with a gentleman named Tom, who was the Baron of, at the time, this one county called Barony. Barony called Sudbury.
Yes.
And so, I went there, and basically I didn't know what I was doing. This tall friend of mine, he had an extra piece of armor. It was like this 18 gauge steel, basically kind of like a vest sort of thing that dug into my hips, and it hurt.
Oh yeah.
It probably weighed a good 25 pounds. I went with the fighter just because I could say 2 normal pretty easily. That's enough that, I'll figure everything else out as I go. Let me just start like this. If I need to, I could change later. But so I started out and as this guy Baron Farr's bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
The first person that I met was actually one of the people that you've talked about, a guy by the name of Vishenka.
Yes.
And so we were, for those that are familiar, we were at Indian Springs, and the cabin that we were using is basically what, if you play Legends or Second Dawn, we use it as the module building, but it was also called the infirmary. It's very kind of off to the side. And so we had this building, and basically this guy Vishenka, he's like, "Hey, do you mind carrying something for us?" He's like, you're new here, probably can't do much anyway if you get into a fight. I'm like, all right, sure. So he hands me like this big pillar thing. So I take this pillar thing and we start walking. Now, keep in mind, we didn't get there until it's dark. I have no idea where I'm going. And, it's dark, it's bumpy, all sorts of stuff. But we wind up walking from basically the module building all the way down past the tavern, past like the other smaller tavern to the left side. And we basically take this to be identified in the Mage's Academy. So the Mage's Academy is all the way down on the left side of the road, it's probably a good half a mile walk, just to be fair. And so we get there, and they take this pillar from me, which is probably about 2 feet tall. Actually, it looks more like an obelisk, really. Mm-hmm. And supposedly this is where the Mage's Academy was. A guy by the name of Losar takes it in, and they put it into their magical circle. And half a second later, they call the hold, but whatever. This death elemental pops out and starts running around and chasing them. And there's a circle there, so they're kind of running around this make-believe circle. I was like, what the hell are they doing? Because I can only see from the windows from outside. And, they're throwing spells, and, the guy that's throwing spells is kind of running and stopping and throwing spells, and the fighter's trying to catch up to it as it's running around. And it was fun. It was really interesting. So that was the first part. Then later that night, somehow we wound up on the other side of the site. Now I know where we are. So basically, we're, again, if you play Legends or Second Dawn, it'll basically be building 3. So basically, if you went to the fork and you went to the right, it's not the Mage's Academy on the bottom right, but the second building. Somehow we wind up over there. And then, so, I'm the Baron's bodyguard, right? First time here. And all of a sudden, these other Dre walk up, and there's an altercation, and I don't know what I'm doing. And they wind up attacking and killing the Baron right in front of me. And I'm like, all right, well, and all the people that are doing this, they've been playing for years. It's actually, I don't want to say who it is, but it's one of the powerful groups there.
Right.
And they offered me, they're like, hey, why don't you come up with us and we'll give you money, and don't even worry about this guy. And I was like, no, I was actually really loyal to him. I was like, no. They're like, you can't afford me. The kind of typical thing. They're like, try me. And they could have definitely afforded me. But it was just, these interactions I had with these people. I don't even know how I found my way back to the cabin that night. And then that even led to additional, some interesting stuff when I got back. I don't know if I want to go into this. Well, there was a young lady that was like, oh, I missed you. And so then I met a girl there too. So this was all on the first night. So I was like, well, how could this be bad? This is great. And so that's how I got kind of the first LARP, and then the real first, first day of LARPing that I got involved in. So that might make a little bit more sense of why I've always been super, into LARPing and had a lot of fun and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're suffering for your art with the armor that digs into you, and you think you'd be like, no, I'm done with this. Then you're running around taking some cursed object, it sounds like,
Yeah.
unleashing chaos. Your first night there. And then, you fail miserably as a bodyguard to a baron. That's awesome. But you still stuck with it, which I think is great. So you must have had fun, right?
I
With all of the roller coaster of emotions through all of that. You had to have fun.
Absolutely. And that was just the first night. The rest of the
Right.
time was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I got to meet a lot of people, and of course, later on throughout the course of the years, that's how we became friends, and I met everybody else.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so Solar is your first LARP, your first real LARP, not the LARP, but the real LARP.
Mm-hmm.
And any more Solar stories you want to share, like in the early days, so to speak, of your career?
Yeah, actually, there's one or two others.
Mm-hmm.
I once this character that I was playing in Solar, they have the ability for you to what they call race change, where basically you go through a formal magic ritual that will change the race that you play. So, as I mentioned, I started out as human, and I wound up becoming friends with one guy, and he actually started out as a wolven, and he race changed into an orc. And so we became really good friends, and he kind of convinced me to do it too. So what that meant in play was, I don't know, it was maybe like 20 or 30 gold worth of free agents. So it wasn't necessarily really that hard to do it. It was harder to find someone that would be willing to do it.
Right.
And then the bigger thing is actually going to site and actually putting on the green makeup.
Right.
And I had hair then, and spray painting my hair red, and stuff like that.
And the tusks, right?
Exactly. And we used
horrible boil the nasty plastic and put it in your mouth while it's still hot and burn your tongue and burn your gums. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we had the friendly plastic that we used
Yes.
to make tusks, and so trying to talk with those and was tough. Also, being a fighter and trying to swing and call damage was even harder. But at the same time, we got to be silly.
Yes.
And that was a lot of fun. We played with I wound up joining the group that he was in, which is they're all PC orcs.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times we had to really explain why we were different versus the crazy orcs that are running around doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was they actually took the group that we were in and they gave us a barony, which is a big deal. It's a lot of political stuff that was going on. So we actually had the first full orc barony, and there was I guess about 8 or 9 of us. I got a lordship. I was like, I don't know, the Lord Executioner or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was neat. There was one interesting encounter where like things were turning into like chaos orcs and running around, and
like orcs aren't chaotic enough.
Exactly.
Right? And now it's like, oh no, we're going to up that to 11.
Exactly. So that was a really fun running around with them.
Yeah.
There was another time, basically, I was still playing the same character. Actually, this was probably before I became an orc.
Mm-hmm.
But one Halloween, we were out on the field, and so Halloween's bit, everyone they go all out, and so there was this big circle there, and I'm not sure if you remember this or not, but there was, again, trying to be very careful. There was this lich sitting in the middle of the circle.
Remember this one? Yep.
And so what happened was this lich, actually, as we were going down there was another guy that was very powerful that got turned into a lich, or maybe it was just for the weekend. But long story short, we, basically everyone's going down there to see what's going on. And so we went down there, and basically he said he was having a tournament, and he wanted to have like a big battle royal of people going in there and fighting. And, the winner was going to get, crazy riches and stuff like that. So like, I knew I probably didn't have a chance, but I was like, there's a lot of people there. So I decided to jump into it anyway. So I went in, fought a bit, and I died. I don't know. I mean, wasn't right away, but it wasn't super far in. And what happened was, basically, when the last few people were still fighting, and I remember the person that won, but I'm not going to mention that person. What the lich did was he raised everybody as undead. and then lowered the circle and turned them on the town. So what happened was I basically had my little, I was probably being like 8th level fighter or something like that at the time.
Right.
Plus I had like these ghost stats where I could now phase and do other weird stuff.
Right.
So that was a lot of fun because I got to run around with like a little more powerful stuff that I just wasn't used to. And it kind of gave me a little bit more of a view of kind of, how some other people play, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's other times even outside of the game, I became very friendly with people. And that started, actually, I think it might have been with another friend of ours where we started playing for gold, for in-play money at different people's houses.
Yes.
I'm not sure if your apartment was there at one point. Or if
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I wasn't super popular with most people. Like, I was like way too low level for even people to look at. But when I was playing poker, I was actually really good. So I started taking their money. And so that's when they started kind of realizing, oh, hey, who is this person?
You were the freshman until you started winning at the out of game, but still in play poker.
Exactly. And so,
Yep.
I think one of our green friends was, he owed me some money. One of our silent friends.
Yes.
I think he owed me a little bit of money too. But the biggest thing was one of our Dre friends who, again, I'm trying to say people's names, but
right.
He, you don't want to sit in his circle. He's like the really bad one.
Right.
Throws potatoes at people. So again, for those that know who I'm talking about, that's great. But
I still don't know if that's an urban legend or not. Like if he really did it, or if it's one of those urban legends. But I know exactly who you're talking about. He was a bad dude.
Yeah. So
he owed you money. Did he owe you money too?
He did. Actually, he owed me enough money that he wanted to cut cards for an obliterate. Where if I won, I just had to bring him somebody in a rug.
In a bag.
Yes. Didn't matter who it was. He was going to obliterate him. And then we would call it even. Now, I don't know if he really had the sense to do it. But you know what? I don't care.
I think he would have done it.
I'm sure if that all happened, he probably would have done it.
Yeah.
It was more of, I wanted him to know me, but I didn't necessarily want him to be on my bad side. And so we cut the cards, and fortunately for him, he won, so he didn't actually owe me any money, which is okay. Again, from him, I wasn't worried about it, but more knowing that we could be, friends and that sort of thing was in my best interest anyway. I didn't hate anybody enough to spend hundreds of gold to get.
Yeah, but there's something cool. That's the second time I've heard ever of anyone doing that deal. Another time someone owed someone a huge favor, and the deal was bring me someone in, and for them it was in a bag. And I won't even look at them. I'll just go ahead and perform the ritual, right? And that was really cool. And I don't think that person ever called in that favor either, which is interesting. But there's something cool about it, right? You feel really evil making those deals, right? So
absolutely.
So now, okay, so your first character at Solar sounds like he was more based on you, right? And you're coming in and you're making these allegiances, and you're very loyal to the Baron that you're bodyguarding, and then you get race changed. Same character goes to Orc, and along with the race change and all the makeup, you also got whatever predisposition like the race was, right? So Orcs were kind of goofy and big and glumpy and whatever. So the personality shifted. So then Solar, did you play? I don't remember if you it was really hard in Solar. In Legends, it was easier to have either a secondary character or something, but in Solar, they didn't offer that at first. So did you ever play a second character in Solar? I'm trying to remember who you played.
I did. So, and that was kind of part of it. I wasn't on plot. I wasn't one of the people that was doing work for the game. So I wasn't leveling super high, super fast. But, I was definitely I would come out every event. This is terrible, but I actually got mono during or before a event, so it took me a month to get over it. But I actually drove out to site, but I stayed far enough where I could just kind of see it and just kind of miss it.
People played when they had the flu, man, and it was LARP or die, LARP and die sometimes, and just
So it was kind of like, if you ever seen that TV show Friends, where they've got like Joey and he's kind of at the window and you see the little rain coming down, he's all sad, and then you realize it's like a fake window. That's kind of how I felt. I was like, oh, I wish I could be there. Like I was terrible. Like, I quit jobs if I couldn't get LARP weekends off. No, to be honest, I was.
Yeah, but you're young enough. You're young enough, right?
Exactly. And they were, and not that I advocate this now, but they were just like, it was working at like a fast food place or whatever. Like,
well, it's just work-life balance, really. That's what they call it now, by the way.
Exactly.
Gotta have that work-life balance there.
So like I would quit jobs.
Yeah.
I went there with mono. Like I mean, I was addicted to this. I mean, I loved it. It's been so much fun.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to think of some. I wound up playing that character for probably about 2.5, 3 years.
Okay.
Then I was like, you know what? I want to throw packets at people. I see, like, I'm hanging out with all these people, and there's a lot of people throwing packets. So I respent into an Elven Celestial Scholar.
Oh, man.
So basically, what that means is, I wore your tip things, and I did have a weapon, so I could swing. It wasn't, but I basically was more something like that you would think of. Again, for people that haven't played, we threw things like confining spells, so like binds and webs and would web people and stuff, or elemental damage, so like lightning, fire, stuff like that. Right. So it wasn't a healer type; it was more of like a mage type of thing.
Right.
And then from there, I scripted into the Artificers Guild, where a lot of what I did was kind of sit there and cast arcane rituals to make weapons that we would sell.
Right.
And then, of course, there was at one time we cabin raided, one of the big groups.
Yeah. You were bad boys.
Yep. So that was really interesting. Just even that, because it was not just me; it was 2 other people out there. And I'm not sure if their ritual said that their Destroy Celestial was faster. Like, I thought it was 30 minutes, but they seemed to run off after like 15.
Right.
And I think they had faster scrolls, but the people that were robbing the cabin, one of them actually came outside to go to the bathroom. And she was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't know what to say here." And I just kind of pretended to be dead, and she went back in, and that's when the greater elementals came in and took care of everything. But so
you're basically cabin raiding, and you're caught in the act of casting the enchantment to take down the wards, and you can't move, or you'll break the casting, right? Or were you already done by this time?
Well, so that's where I was confused, because the 2 people I was with, they took off like a few minutes beforehand at this point. And so I'm not sure if they had a different watch than me. If, again, some of the rituals that they had were actually faster than the normal.
Right. Some of the enchantments on the scrolls were like only 15 minutes rather than 30, or it was part of, you paid more for that, right? So you're sitting there going, wait a minute, we did not coordinate this. We did not sync our watches. I'm going on the 30-minute timetable. So you're trying to follow the rules.
Exactly.
And you're almost at the end of your time.
Yeah.
And the person one of the people in the cabin comes out and is like,
so I'm still pretending to cast a ritual because I really don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And a minute or 2 later, we had these greater earth elementals that basically kind of came in. They went inside, they killed people in the cabin, and then they took all the stuff and they kind of phased back into the earth and took it to.
Right. Basically, the person goes back in the cabin, and you're like, the jig is up. But your marshal, because we always had a marshal who kept the time, is like, nope, time, go ahead and do your thing, earth elementals and everything. So the raid is successful, even though you almost got caught.
Correct. But I'm pretty sure, excuse me, that the elementals killed her, so she wouldn't remember who I was 30 minutes prior to.
Right.
So that wasn't an issue. Plus, it was super dark, and we were in the woods.
Right.
So we were in the woods behind their cabin.
Right.
And so, I wasn't really worried about it. But we took, they had a lot of stuff. They were one of the big baronies at the time. It was a bit of an issue.
A lot of loot.
There was a lot of what we would call fat loot. So I got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. It's so much fun. I mean, the game, like the game was very rough. There was a lot of PvP. I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm a bit paranoid because of the PvP from that game. Like I got killed at least 3 or 4 times of just, people just murdering me.
Right.
It could have been, I mean, it's funny, half the time it's like just even sitting there like in the tavern, just they kill me and I like fall into my food or whatever. Sometimes they would animate me, sometimes they weren't. And Solar, basically, if you can be created into undead, and it lasts for 5 minutes. And basically, if that happens, then there's no way for you to get lifed. So if you get hit with a life spell, you come back. So basically, you've got a 3-minute window. You have 1 minute to bleed out, unless they killing blow you, and then if they killing blow you, then you have 2 minutes until you die. You have a 2-minute window to get lifed.
Right.
But what they would do is they'd, basically kill me right away, and then once they hit, then they would animate you, and so that 2-minute window to be life no longer exists anymore. You're undead, and you can't come back from undead. So basically, you're under their command for about 5 minutes, and then you go resurrect.
Right.
So that happened a couple of times, and to be honest, like the whole game was like that.
Yeah, it was. It was a really hard game. Like it was definitely player versus player. I was paranoid. I'm with you. Like totally paranoid. Sometimes you were paranoid about the group you were hanging out with, right? Like,
yeah,
it might be your regular group. It might be a group you went on modules with as a pickup, right? Like, hey, we need a mage. Can you come with Celestial Mage? Can you come with us? And you're like, are they going to kill me? Like at any time during the module, right? So, yeah, you even your first LARP, and you've been like the whole range of Shrek to Elrond, from like, I mean, you've been and you've been like, I'm going to be the fighter, I'm going to be the mage, I'm going to be the orc, I'm the human here, now I'm the elf, the shiny glittery elf, and like, which not all of them were, and you may not have been, no offense, but they're elves. So what, you didn't stay at Solar, because I knew you also at other LARPs as well.
Right. So with the people I started hanging out with, how do I say this? Started, I guess, becoming a little disillusioned with some of the things that were happening. You got to be very careful in LARP politics. And we definitely learned this a lot later, but perception, whether something's true or not, the perception is big, because people see stuff, and whether it's true or not, they think that it's true and real and stuff like that. There's a lot of rumors that get spread about all different types of things.
Yes.
But basically, the people that I started playing with, or that I started hanging out with a lot, I wasn't just hanging out with them in play, but you guys out of play as well. We were playing card games for in play gold, and we were hanging out on birthdays and weddings and stuff like that. And basically, everyone kind of decided that they basically decided they were going to build their own game. And so I was very much a part of that. I helped write some of the rules. I actually found the old rulebook not too, like, a week and a half ago or so.
Right.
And so I really helped them with a lot of the rules and things like that. And we launched a new game, which was a bit of an issue with a lot of my friends that were playing the current game. Unfortunately, there was one friend of mine that I originally started off with, and he basically said, if you are going to go play this game, we can't be friends. And that really saddened me. But, well, I haven't spoken to him in 20 years. So, I'm not sure, there's a lot of stuff with that. Anyway, long story short, so we went and we played or started this game, Legends.
Right.
And that was different. That was different than any of the other games that are out there. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I still don't see anything that I really compare it to even now, a little bit over 20 years later. So we started, like, it was 98, or I think it went live in 1999.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
And so I had a couple of firsts also at Legends. So I've now been playing for 5 years. I've never really kind of helped out on plot. In fact, that was one of the interesting things. When I first started playing Solar, I was told to stay away from plot. Like plot are the people that decide what's going on. They write the encounters. They do stuff to get you interested. And, the people I was with, they're like, no, you're going to get what they call plot fucked and stuff like that. And so we would actively run away from this stuff almost. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, we still had fun and we made our fun. But at the same time, we didn't, get all the stuff that other people did until the people I started hanging out with kind of changed. I started hanging out with like you and some other people as well.
Right.
So, I was excited seeing Legends coming into being.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I did on Legends was I was like one of the first people to kind of help write story years later. It wasn't the original group, but there was just a lot of stuff that kind of happened with Legends that was a lot of fun. I mean, I'll probably tell a few more stories about that.
Yeah.
But and yeah, I'm still upset. Like I had this picture of this thing that was just really cool. Unfortunately, I just cannot find it right now. Yeah. But okay. So Legends was different in that at the Solar and Neo types of games, if you're a warrior, all you can do is swing damage, or you have like this one super big ability, which basically kind of cuts somebody in half. What Legends did is they said basically there's more to it than that. Like especially if you're going to be a warrior, and then you're going to use like a mace or blunt weapon, you can now stun people.
Right.
If you're using a two-handed weapon, then you can like cut people's limbs off, or you can break their shields. Right. So in the games, you don't intentionally like swing hard enough to break someone's shield, but you can now do it. Also, what Legends did when it came to fighting is the rules for shields were a little bit different. In these other games, it was a certain dimensions of the shield that they could use, or it was the size of your body. So basically, from the top of your shoulder to the end of your fingers was as long as a shield could be. And then the shield could only be as wide or as broad as your shoulders. Right. So, I'm 6 feet tall. And so, I'm pretty broad, a little bit long. My shield was one size, but at the same time, especially in other games where it was just a flat thing, there are a lot of people that were a little bit shorter than me.
Yep.
And their shield was huge compared to the size of their body versus me versus mine. So ours, so that I think was also really interesting and very helpful. Eventually, also in a lot of these games, we use tags where basically every time you would cast a spell, you would rip it off, like a little ring, and you would go and you would take what spells you wanted and not just spells, but skills or poisons or things like that. And in Legends, it got to a point where eventually they stopped making tags. They're just like, you know what, we just trust you. Because the thing is, if you're going to cheat with having the paper tags, you're going to cheat without, and it'll eventually kind of work itself out.
Makes for a smoother game flow too, right? When you're not going through your tags at the end of something, you're staying in play longer, which is great. The game mechanics in Legends, some of the stuff they did was really, really awesome.
It was. So one of the big things that they did is, especially in Solar and Nero, the way that they had two different versions of magic, they had battle magic, then they had the arcane magic. And while they still had that in Legends, what Legends did was instead of, and I kind of talked about it earlier, like the celestial mage, they had confining magic, and then they had the elemental magic, then they had what we would call kind of like manipulation, where like you can knock on doors and it would open a lock. And so what they did was they literally pulled out all these different types of spells, and they made different schools for the different spells. Yep. And so they also did it on the other side of like the healing side. So they wound up having a total of 15 different schools of magic. And then what happened was, as the game went on, we found additional schools of magic too that were broken from parts of the story,
from the lore, from the history of the world that we were in, which was really neat. It all played out in play. Things were released. Stories and different artifacts and other things, and it was very cool.
Right, absolutely. So there are like the the lore and the IP that this game Legends had was just amazing. The people who worked on it were so creative, and that's kind of why I wanted to do this, because I kind of wanted to tell some of those stories too, because they're amazing. Honestly, to again give credit to those people. At different points, we had different people that were running plot. One of the first things that Legend said was that if you run plot, you never get to play, and so that kind of changed. But about 2 or 3 years into the game, I wound up doing what they wound up calling this tier 3 shift. So basically, they came up with these different tiers. So like tier 1's an average player, tier 2 is someone that might be able to handle a little bit bigger characters. Right. Tier 3 was these are people that are going to just come and they're going to help monster and be a part of the plot team for like a 6-month period.
Right.
So they sign up, they commit for 6 months. At the end of the time, they level, their character would level as if they were playing. And they would also get like some sort of item or some sort of like in-play thank you.
You're compensated for your time with something in play, some item at the end of your 6-month period. And the great thing about tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, if I remember, was tier 1 knew all the secrets because you would never play a character. Tier 2 only knew enough to do what they were doing, and tier 3 only knew enough. So you didn't ruin the game for yourself by joining tier 3 or tier 2 for a certain amount of time.
So it was actually the numbers are reversed. So tier 3, and so tier 5 was the highest tier you could be. What you were saying?
Tier 5. Okay, I'm getting it wrong. So tier 5 was the highest, knew all the secrets, right? Tier 4, and then it went down. So tier 3, you knew some of the things, but it didn't ruin it for you for all of the things, like the very, very top secret stuff, right? So It was really good. You could let people help, and the more people who were helping, the more you could do, right? So you distribute that workload to everyone. Yep.
So when you have, and at different points in the game, we had 80 players, we had 100 players, we had 120 players. Mm-hmm. And so having more bodies to help run the stuff, it goes smoother. So basically I said, hey, look, I'll try out this, when we created this tier 3 thing, I was the first person who did it. Right. And so the first event I went there and all I did was monster. And to be honest, I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I hate this. Like I hated just monstering. So it's like, hey, is it okay if I write something? Mm-hmm. So that I could actually kind of run it and I'm not just monstering the whole time.
Right.
And I think Chris Dotson, who was one of the other people that interviewed us, he was the head of plot at the time. He said, sure. So what I did was I decided that there's basically like 4 different kind of areas. So there's Friday night when you get started, then there's Saturday morning, Saturday night, and then Sunday before eventually we got to the point where we stopped running on Sundays. So I wrote 4 different encounters so that I could do stuff each of those time periods where I wouldn't necessarily have to be a monster. And so I came up with different things. And, it was mostly little, minor stuff. It wasn't anything big. And I got on and I got a cool little item. And, some of the NPCs and stuff that I started playing, they wound up, 1 or 2 of them became reoccurring. And there's a lot of stories about some of them. But then later I actually did what they called a tier 4 stand where I know a lot more about what was going on.
Right.
Again, for a specific amount of time. And then even further down the line, I did actually go tier 5 for, I don't know, a couple of years. And they kind of got rid of the whole thing of you have to do it permanently.
Right.
But so I spent total of about 8 years, I think I had figured, between that game and the game that came after Legends with what's another game called Second Dawn.
Yep.
But so I got to experience things from the player as well as the plot team or the entertainment committee, and I think it's really important having that balance. That really helps keep you grounded when you start statting stuff or giving out items, because you can learn and see a little bit more of kind of how players play and what they expect, and what's going to be easy for them to kill and what's harder, and kind of what their power level is. Because if you don't really go and kind of play the PC sometimes to see what they're doing,
right,
or to really understand where they come from when they start getting upset about different things. But when you can kind of walk in their shoes, it's really helpful. I'll go ahead and let you ask more questions. I'm sorry. I feel like I've been...
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. So I'm reminiscing along with you. So you're playing Legends. and you came in sort of on the ground floor with everyone who started Legends. You came over, and unfortunately, there is a lot of tribalisms. There was a lot of tribalism at the time between different LARPs, right? There was some tribalism between Solar and Nero at times, Solar and Legends at times. It just is what it is. But you spoke about the photo you were looking for. You and I were talking about it. Now that was an interesting group, right? It was NPCs, if I'm not mistaken, non-player characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And did you help form the idea of these, or did you just get approached and it's like, hey man, I need you to play something cool, and then I'm going to let you tell. I'm not going to spoil. I'm going to let you tell what these NPCs were, how they fit into the game, because they made a big impression on me when they came in.
Right. So, and just to be clear, I didn't write this at all.
Right. Okay.
But part of the kind of the three main people that did and wrote a lot of stuff, they wrote and weaved these incredible tales of, so there was like good orders and bad orders, or
right.
So basically, and I'll just call it, so there was three different sets of orders that kind of went through town. There was like the white stuff, the good stuff. They were called the Ohm. Mm-hmm. So they're basically like the healers. They also did a lot of stuff. They fought against undead. Right. And generally, they were kind of like the lawful good sort of paladin-esque sort of people. And of course, the healers that also kind of went along with them. So we kind of have those on the side. Then towards the top and in the middle, we have what we call it's pronounced like the Ogum. It's like O-G-H-M.
Ogum or the Om, yep.
Right. And so
like
that's exactly. So that's the Druids. That's more the nature part. And so I actually played a character in that nature part for quite some time.
Yes.
So they're more of they're connected to the lands, a little bit more. They have these havens that they go to, which are basically kind of areas that are kind of misdirected. And they kind of do like all their stuff there. And then you have something called the Orm. The Orm are basically the dark side of people, or not of people, but the dark side. These are the necromancers. These are the people that, do all the evil stuff.
Right.
And in the town, the way that magic worked was we had about, I think it was 15 schools. Mm-hmm. But 3 of those schools were illegal schools, meaning that if you got caught casting them, that you could get into big trouble where you literally had to sign a waiver, like out of play, saying, if you want to take these schools, that's fine, but whatever the consequences of
consequences are in play.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so there were some people that did that. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, all the time there was a lot of the Ohm, so again the lighter side, they would come into town a lot, and they would take their people on modules, and they would go fight the evil people. It wasn't always the Orm. It wasn't always like the bad guys. It could be just like some other, people that just were bad. They weren't necessarily casting like dark, like necromantic magics or what we call death magic or things like that. But the thing is that they are able to create this lore super deep behind these 3 different kind of sets and orders of just what they call the laws. So the law of life, the law of nature, the law of death.
Right.
And so that's kind of how they looked at the schools. And but they created this level and presence of just how mean and evil like the Orm was. And a lot of it was because of the people, the NPCs coming in as the Ohm. They're like, no, stay away from Ohm. They're terrible. They could do this and that. And they were really doing a lot of, the Ohm guys were fanatics. Like they were ridiculous. Like it was crazy.
Right.
And
they were very zealous.
Exactly. And so it was really interesting because one of the times when I was on tier 4, the guy that I was asked to come and basically play one of these Orm guys.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I wish I had the picture, like, to kind of show you what we look like. We're just humans, just like anybody else.
That was the best part of it. You weren't any exotic type of race, right? You weren't any exotic.
In fact, they hate other races.
Weird monster stuff. You were humans.
Mm-hmm.
And you came in with this just very imposing costuming, and it was amazing, yeah.
So, and I wish I had it. I know that one of the people that I think is that liked this Facebook thing. Her husband was one of them. And I just wish I had a picture. I know it's funny because I see it all the time, and when I go to grab it, it's just not there. But so 5 people.
Right.
So me, I was basically playing the second in command. There's the main guy who's also been running a lot of the story. We had this other rogue who I think he might have come in a couple of times ahead of time, and he even like told people what he was. Like he was like, I'm a Orm rogue, and like you can try to kill me, you can try to do whatever. Like you ain't gonna win. And I think he got out of different situations and stuff. And he always, bested them in different ways. Then we had another guy, and he actually the interesting part is that on the Ohm side, there was this one guy who is a twin brother of another guy on the dark side, right? So there's like this whole, and like I hate to talk about the Star Wars stuff and the duality thing that they talked about.
The duality, though, it's the 2 sides of the same coin with these characters who were twins. One was to the light, one was to the dark. It worked, though. It was really, I mean, I know it's been done before, but it really worked in this case. The guy who was playing them pulled it off. That's the thing. You have to have a really good role player.
Exactly. So he was really great when he played the light guy. And when he came in as a dark guy, he looked a little bit like little evil Eddie Munster from the Munsters. He kind of had like the really pale face. He actually drew the Orm symbol on his forehead. At that time, I played a desert elf as my character, and so I would write stuff on my face. And I guess my skin's a little bit more oily. I never had a problem with the Sharpie. He couldn't get the Sharpie off. And for a while, it was really, really bad. I was really worried.
Oh my God.
He had like this little evil symbol on his forehead. So we had him, and then we had this other guy who's another friend who wound up being the head of plot for quite some time. And he's like 6'4", and he's like wearing this mask that makes it look like you can't see his face, but it looks like a cage.
Right.
Just the 5 of us who walk out. And our stats, we were just humans. And the reason why we were humans was that humans could turn into undead easier later. So that's why they really preferred humans. So we were run by, like, our organization was run by a lich, and there's all sorts of undead and stuff like that. But, we, came in, and so the way that we're at Indian Springs, so where we have our plot cabin, which is like that first cabin when you first get to the site. So as we were walking, just the 5 of us, and I think I just had 30th level fighter stats. Nothing special. He even made me use like the weapon he made, which was terrible. I was like, if I have to fight with this, I can't do much. And he's like, I don't care, just use it. I was like, fine. So we went in and we walked over past the tavern. Right. And from that point, we're in line of sight of a good majority of the usable space that we used on the site. Mm-hmm. Now, it was still probably 0.2 of a mile to get to certain parts of it. It was far. It would take a fast person probably a good minute or 2 to run to us. But all of a sudden, everybody cleared out.
Yep.
Nobody got within 100 probably yards of us.
Right.
So where we were standing and to where that little tavern is was probably about 100 yards, almost the size of a football field.
Yep.
No.
No. Like intimidation, area of effect.
Exactly.
And then everybody's like, I remember going, oh no, no, thank you. And that was it. It was like, no thanks. I'm driving.
Mm-hmm. People were running from us. So like, amazing credit to the people that told the stories that like people didn't ask it. They weren't close enough to introduce themselves or ask us their name. They just left. They didn't want anything to do with us. They saw the symbol on like 1 or 2 of our shields. We had black tabard with like a symbol, a silver version of the Orm symbol. Nobody got close to us for like 30 minutes. We were going to this one little area where the fence is at Indian Springs, kind of the fence of summoning, I think. Right. Finally, 1 or 2 people got within like 20 feet and kind of shouted us questions. And it's really interesting, just the whole psychology about what's going on and the amount of fear that these people had at this fake game with these There's just 5 of us. I mean,
Well, but it all like the groundwork was laid when you talk about the guy who played the rogue who would come in. I mean, he was terrifying because, well, first of all, he can tell you I'm with Orm, I'm an Orm rogue. He doesn't have any of the magics, right? You can't bust him. You can't go to the magistrate and say, hey, this dude is he's not. He doesn't have any illegal magics. He's a rogue. But he's sitting there and people are challenging him and he's kicking their butts, right? So you're like, these guys. And then there's all these stories. Like Legends also is really good in between events, putting out these stories, right? Remember that they would come on the website and you'd read the stories about the different stuff. So and at the time, the schools of magic were illegal. Later, they became legal, right? I think, if I remember correctly. But at the time, illegal, forbidden, and nasty. And you did have that from other LARPs as well. You had that necromancy, bad, like all these things are just going to kick your ass, right? For sure. Mm-hmm. So you already laid the groundwork. And then you come in and very intimidating, like the whole style, like your whole like on point as far as like this is what nasty looks like. And then everybody in the game was just like, nope, I'm not above my pay grade. Just back off. Yeah. At one point, I think you guys also did a parlay. Like you did a very formal parlay. And I don't think that was your first time out. That was later, right? But the parlay had all the pageantry because I actually NPC'd one of the people who came in with the parlay, right? One of the supporting characters. I didn't have to say anything. I was just there to look intimidating. So we had our black robes and all the cool stuff. But yeah, I totally like there was a presence there, right? You guys had a presence and it was very cool.
It was. That was really fun. I was definitely not the writer and I was just trying to go with what they wanted. When we came in, at least I was probably up most of the night. I was like, my eyes are a little sunken in just from being tired. Not maybe they might put on a little bit of makeup or whatever on me. But yeah, just nobody got close. They're terrified. Eventually, like the 2 big guys that kind of ran the town, they got fairly close. And I forgot what we talked about, but we basically decided that, we wanted to kind of, size them up, but we wanted to have a real parlay.
Right.
And so it might have been the next event.
Right.
We came back. And so again, it's at the same site. It's still that Indian Springs site.
Yep.
And we wound up going down that left path. And this time it's not just 5 of us. It's more like 12.
Right. You had an entourage with you.
Exactly.
Yeah. As fits a parlay. Yeah, as fits a formal parlay.
Right. So there's literally a formal parlay. Me and I don't know if I should, and the main guy that this is plot line, sit down at the table at the same time as the 2 PCs, and we get into it. We're like, we want this, all sorts of stuff, and we're watching them, and the big PC that is kind of leading the town. He's also very military.
Yes.
So he's good. He comes back at us. It was really interesting. There was a lot of people watching. We tried to talk a little bit loud just so that people could hear what's going on.
Right.
It was just some really intense role playing. That was a lot of fun. That really scared people because at the drop of a hat, who knows, people could have just started attacking one another.
Yep.
So that is absolutely like one of my favorite stories. Being able to be a part of that. Some of the other stories. The group that the first character that I started playing, again, I went back to the whole warrior thing. And I decided that this is a brand new game. And I kind of wanted to get my name out there a little bit further. So I decided to play just this warrior that didn't give a crap and was super mean. And, was a bit of a jerk. They had this, in play, like the good people or the people that were like good to the town. I was always just like a jerk to them. I was, and they realized later like that was just me playing a character.
Right.
But there was, a lot of times where there was only one time that I actually killed a PC as that character in Legends. And I've never really been a big PvPer.
Right.
And Legends actually made it different so that there was a chance that you could remember what happened before you died. Legends,
It was like a random chance, like that you roll the dice or whatever that you might remember. It was the odds were there, and I forget what they did. Did they do a dice roll or was it something else?
I think it was still the bag pull, but
no, it's the bag of pull. Yeah. If you pull the black
marble.
marble or whatever it was, the white marble or something. I remember this now. Yep.
Yeah, so that's what it was. So basically, there's 10 marbles in the bag. One of them, or so 7 were just a normal resurrection, which is you forget the last 10 minutes.
Right.
There was one where you didn't lose a life.
Right.
There's one where you lose 2 lives, and then there's one you remember what happened.
Right.
And so it really kind of messed with things because sometimes people can lose 2 lives. Now I know there's some other games where if you pull the black marble, your character's gone. Doesn't matter how many lives you had beforehand. But this is still something that was kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But so I played this character, and again, my goal was just really kind of become a little bit more well known. And I joined a group that had a lot of friends that I played with, and we wound up getting known for a reason. Basically, we would go and we would try to kill these big bad guys, and then we would lose. And the big bad guys would get out, and all the town would get mad at us. So that was like one of the things that happened. And I still got a couple of stories about that. But some of the people on our team were definitely troublemakers, and they kind of had the goody side, and so that was really interesting of kind of how that played out. In fact, the guy that wound up being the other evil Orm guy, the leader,
right,
or the leader of the retinue that we were playing, that we were from, he was on our team, and he was one of the big necromancers out there.
Yeah, this was the big group.
The Emerald Blade.
Yes. Okay, so like absolutely, I remember you guys. And what was so funny was like part of my team. We talked when I was telling my stories about the Sylvan group, the Phalite group I was with, and how some of them were bad, some of them were good, some of them didn't know the other ones were bad, and the EB was Emerald Blade was exactly like that, right? Like I would be talking to one of the other Sylvan lady who was in, she was like one of the ones who organized you and everything, and we'd be talking, and I'd have to think, am I supposed to? Does she know that so and so? Because I would know, right? Because I'd go on the bad little get-togethers that we'd have, like come on, bad guys, let's go do a bad thing. And I'd be like, okay, I'm here as support rogue. And then I'd go with them. And then it's like, is she supposed to know? I can't remember. I'm going to shut up now. And you guys, the same thing. The dynamic there was like, we want to play together, but we all have these different things. So I'm just not going to tell you. I'm not going to let you know. And then, but it was a cool group. You guys had a really good, like, that whole sort of secret society thing, but everybody knew about the secret society, but it was still cool. I mean, like you had some lore that you guys had come up with that you fleshed out, like the group fleshed out. Like I'm not saying you personally, it was many people in the group who came up with the idea, and but it was a really, really cool group.
Right. So basically what it was is that, and we didn't realize it at the time, but and we had a bit of help from Plot. They kind of helped take what we were doing and kind of turned it into a story for us. And so basically in Legends, there was, I don't know, I think about 8 or 9 races that you could play. And so what happened was there was this order of the Emerald Blade that came a long time before us, and a lot of them were very powerful people from powerful families, and basically they had this blood sort of lineage that whoever had this blood, I don't want to say that they could do things that other people couldn't, but
they were like a legacy, though. There was this legacy that you inherited with the blood, with the lineage. Yep.
Exactly. And so sometimes it got really messy because, so for example, like we had in the game, we had this class or a race called Highlanders.
Right.
So Highlanders included like what you think of like the Gaelic Highlanders and German. I played myself more of a Norse Highlander.
Right.
And then there was one other set. of Highlander.
Right.
So, one of the characters that I played, he had this legacy blood, but there's one of the people that were on our team, and he was just like the Celtic Highlander.
Right.
And he also had the legacy blood. So it was a little weird in certain places. We kind of had to make things work.
Mm-hmm.
But so we didn't, it kind of came that it was like fate trying to pull us all together was kind of how plot was kind of trying to wrap it up. And so there's a lot of stuff that kind of tied back into this whole legacy blood thing.
Yep.
And so I played this one character. I only played him for maybe a little bit over a year. He was, again, a loud, obnoxious fighter type. And it was fun. I had a good time. But I also felt like I was doing myself a disservice by being mean, as the character. And so I got to the point where I stopped playing the character.
Right.
And I wound up playing, boom, I jumped to a mage. Again, this time it was a Sylvan. So Sylvan, so you played a Sylvan. Sylvans could be either silver or gold, and they were some of the, like, basically they were related to Fae, they were Fae that got kicked out, and you kind of told the story. So if anyone, go make sure you check out Debbie's episode as well.
And I think Chris Dodson also touched on him as well, because that was his big thing. He wrote a lot of that stuff. Yep.
Right. So Chris Dodson also talks about this thing called the Trial of Meredith.
Yep.
And Meredith was the Fae that threw out the Sylvans.
Right.
And so I remember Meredith because there was a long story about my character that I wound up playing. So I played my character for 2 or 3 years, and part of he was a nature caster, so playing caster, and the way that worked was he did elemental stuff as well as nature stuff. Mm-hmm. But the element that I chose was air. So there were a lot of fire people, there were a lot of ice people, so I went with air just to be a little bit different. And I wound up so usually he was pretty breezy, but like every once in a while he'd get really pissed and get like really excited, like a little lightning strike, and then he'd kind of go back to what he was. And so like Sylvans in general, they obviously they hated necromancy. They couldn't be around it. It like made them sick, stuff like that.
Couldn't be made into undead.
Right.
That was part of them, yep.
Mm-hmm. And so that part was neat. And so I found out that there was one time where we were walking through town and some guy, I don't know who he was. Hold on a second. Mm-hmm. Sorry, someone is actually sending me a message saying that they're missing tonight. I'm like, it's on right now. But actually, she was one of the people in the Emerald Blade as well.
Ah.
So you probably know who that is, because there were that many females in Emerald Blade to start. But yeah, so anyway, like there's this one guy, and I heard him cast necromancy in town. And again, kind of going back to the local schools, I was like, oh, nope. I turned around and I killed him.
Yeah.
Or I dropped him and I brought him. I was like, this guy was casting necromancy. Like if he casted death magic, I wouldn't have cared. If he casted, so we had 3 different schools that were illegal: necromancy, corruption, and death.
Right.
I didn't care. Corruption and death are fine. Kind of part of nature. That's a thing. I was a druid. Didn't really care about that. But once you start doing stuff that's going to like raise dead and stuff like that,
break the cycle, that's the whole point of it in the in-game universe, was necromancy breaks the cycle. You're supposed to die. You're supposed to nourish the earth. You're not supposed to walk around.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't go get back up and walk around. So, I turned this one guy in, and part of the game is, especially in this where you have these illegal schools that you get in trouble for, is, he had to sign a waiver. He had to know. I don't know how he didn't realize I was standing right over there. I mean, I had silver on and stuff, but I guess he thought he could get away with it. I don't know. But, that character was a lot of fun. There was a lot of stuff that happened to him. He wound up having this Famor get his shape. So one of the Fae that we had was this thing called the Famor, and they can take people's shape, and then they would go and impersonate them and do terrible things.
Yep.
So that happened to my character at one point. And so half the time I had to play my character as this Famor and didn't know all the information. And that became an issue. Which people are like, all right, are you the real Liam or the fake Liam and stuff like that? So and this was again kind of when I was fading out of playing the character, but I really enjoyed the character. There was actually a really cool story that I got to watch. In Legends, the end all be all terrible thing was this thing called the Void. Now we talk about undead. Undead's bad, but the Void is ridiculous. It's super powerful. Basically, it's I guess if they like matter, it's like antimatter. It's like as far as
destruction of all, like it's the worst, right? Yeah,
exactly. So every step that like man and whatever grows, it is there. The edge is trying to take it back into nothingness. And there's a lot of metaphysics behind it. But so what in Legends, what they would do is basically every year there was 3 different void peaks. One was minor, one was major, one was greater.
Yeah.
So we actually played literally every month of the year, and every month had a school associated to that month.
Yeah.
And so, obviously the summer months were very Ohm related. So the 4 different schools in the Ohm were kind of tied to those months. And then we got to summer, we had the nature stuff, and then towards fall and whatever got into the darker, the death and warm stuff.
Yep.
And the Void was always there at different points. It had like its one little peak in each set, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we found out that they had, again, this minor, major, and greater Void spikes. And so when we find out that, or once we figured all this stuff out a couple of years in, that this Void stuff is out there, they literally had people go and cast the spells to summon these basically, I don't want to call them demons, but these Void things.
Yeah, the void nasties, basically.
Yeah, they're shadows.
Yeah.
And then there's this one event that I remember in particular. Like I was playing this character Liam, who is a mage, and I just turned like 11th level or something like that. And I got this new arcane ritual that let me phase. Mm-hmm. It was like the first time anyone else had it. I actually had the components I needed to cast it, and what it let me do is I can basically take my character and put it into a different phase of reality. Where I could watch what was going on. No one could interact with me. I couldn't interact with them unless they were in a higher level of this phase.
Right.
At that point in time, we didn't even think that was possible. Now we found out later that it was, but I watched as the Void came and just destroyed the town again. This is Indian Springs. But so one of the people that was on my team was asked a monster, and he's a bigger guy, and they had him put on this Void Golem suit.
Right.
So this is the first time we saw this thing called a Void Golem. So think of an Iron Golem, but it's all sorts of spiky.
Oh, yeah, very cool.
And it just, we didn't know what the hell it was the first time we saw it. Mm-hmm. He was running around, and he was, if our warriors were lucky, they were calling like 10s. This thing was calling 25s.
Right.
And it was just pummeling people. They had all these things called void shadows that were destroying people. And I was like trying to help. Then got to the point where I couldn't do anything. And I was like, you know what? I just want to remember what happened so I could tell the story. And so I phased out and was just watching. And there's this one NPC that came up, and well, this could have been, I could tell another story that relates to this, but he basically was this weird samurai guy.
Yes.
And he was played by a guy that I haven't seen in 25 years. Shortly thereafter, like he kind of disappeared from the game.
Right.
But the Void Golem comes up and hits him a couple times, and then basically the epitome thing that a warrior could do is this thing called a death blow. Mm-hmm. And even at 30th level in the game, you only get like three of these per combat.
Right.
Somehow, and again, we were 11th level, we were still figuring stuff out. But he like death blowed this thing like 6 times and killed it. But it was just cool the way it reacted. This guy actually he took kendo. He was actually like participated in kendo tournaments, so like sword fighting. So he did like this cool moves and really kind of made it almost kind of like an anime sort of thing to it. And like the Void Golem jumped back and laid on the floor like it was destroyed. And it was really cool. So that was a lot of fun. That was one of the big encounters that I got to see. Another encounter, kind of talking about Orm and Alm, so the good and the bad, and actually your husband's in this one.
Yep.
again, that bad guy that we talked about, that was from the Orm, and he was also on our team.
Mhm.
He played this good guy called the Child of Light.
Yes.
And the Child of Light, usually when he came in, he had, I don't remember, what was the name of like the angels that would come in with him? The women, the Seraphim, Sarah.
Oh, the Seraphim, I think.
I think something like that.
I think that's what we call them, if I remember.
Yeah, I forgot exactly.
Winged, very looks like an angel, basically.
Yes. So basically, they were, I think they've always come in as women,
Yeah.
but
They did.
they were warriors. They could still heal people and stuff like that. They typically, someone, I think it was a guy named Brett, made shields that like looked like angel wings.
Yep.
And I might be wrong. That might not have been him that made them, or he might have made one. But they had really cool, weapons, and they look really cool. Yep. I've always had a hard time playing quite a good guy, so I was never part of them. But it was cool. They got a lot of attention. But so again, there's this Child of Light guy, and he was trying to help people and stuff like that.
Right.
One time, again at Indian Springs, the opposite came out. Now he wasn't really a part of the Orm, but he was just so. So the Orm is basically one of the organizations on the dark side.
Right.
So this guy, again, this is in essence what we would consider like that god kind of level power sort of thing. Same guy came in as an undead called the Child of Hate.
Right.
And he also brought with him, I don't think it was just one, I think he brought two. They were called Harbingers, which were the dark version.
Opposite of Seraphim, basically.
Exactly.
Dark and women, still women though.
Yeah, still women. They had the black wings. They had the pale face.
They did.
They looked amazing. They looked great.
They did.
And so he came into town, and he had your husband was playing like some sort of ghost or light or something. Right. Something super powerful.
Right.
Brett that we're talking about, he was playing like the head reaver of this Child of Hate. So just to explain what a reaver is a knight that's been risen, and it's basically the epitome of a living dead. So just to explain one thing real fast. So we have undead known as living dead. Undead are typically created versions that you cast rituals on to make undead.
Right.
They're not as powerful. It's things that took an actual ritual to create. Then there's living dead. These are things that didn't naturally happen. These are things for some reason something was so bad in their lives that they rose up on their own through their own source of will.
Right.
And so anything that was, and so these actually come from death, where the necromancy stuff, like the undead, come from necromancy.
Like a death knight, basically.
Right. So a Reaver is a death knight. Now they actually had a death knight. Which is,
right. The Reaver was a different flavor, but in the end, it's the same. No necromancer raises. This happens on its own.
Right. And the other thing about it is that you can't necessarily completely kill it because it always has this, unless it meets its resting condition.
Right.
So you got to role play or deal whatever to figure out what its resting condition is. So it's complete. It's rough. Anyway, so the Child of Hate comes in, and he's got this big, I forgot the name of this guy that Brett's playing. And your husband's there. He's playing a caster. I think there's like 3 or 4 other people there. And basically the Child of Hate's like, all right, I think you guys might be powerful enough. The resting condition for my guy, this big, like, king of the Reavers sort of thing, or like, high level one, is that, he has to be beat by a certain number of people in combat. And he's like, so I need you guys to do this. I want to give him a break, And so he's like, here's the deal. You've got 5 minutes to assemble 5 people to fight against him.
Right.
You guys got to kill him. Otherwise, he ain't. Otherwise, we're just going to destroy you because you didn't do what I wanted. And so, it was the Child of Hate. It was, this big guy. They had 2 harbingers with him who were already pretty gross. Your husband was playing really, again, I'm not sure what specific undead he was playing. Right. I just remember him running after people, throwing spells back at him.
Because that's what he did. Yes.
Exactly. And so I remember we were just about to turn like 25th level at this point. And because I needed like that half a level to get like one of the big abilities.
Right.
So I was playing at this point. I had a Desert Elf. And so the Desert Elf that I was playing, most people didn't know this, but I pretended to be a fighter, but I wasn't actually a fighter. I was actually this thing called a Custos, or if you play Nero or whatever, it was called a Templar. So there's kind of half and half sort of thing.
Yep.
So I actually played I signed a waiver. I played a Deathcaster through corruption. Well, originally through necromancy, but basically a Deathcaster Custos. But I pretended to be a warrior. Now the thing is that Custos don't get the big ultimate warrior ability where they just hit people for massive, crazy damage. Also, I don't have as much body as a warrior.
They don't.
But otherwise, those are, most people don't really know all that stuff. The only thing they could do is they could tell that when they go to heal me to full, that I don't quite have as much as even like the halfway decent warrior.
You're a pretty weak warrior, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
But you know what? I was still a good fighter, so that made up for a lot of that, and it was fun. It was something different. So everyone kind of gathers up, and they like wanted me to be one of the 5 people. They had another guy that's a friend, and he was also a Custos, but he was a life Custos. Mm-hmm. And they figured like, well, a life Custos would probably have a better chance than just a regular healer because he could at least kind of block some of the blows. They could use certain skills to stop from that. So they wound up getting 5 people, and again, they were going to have me until like the last minute. I kind of got out of it, and I probably should have stayed. I think I probably would have liked it better if I actually participated in it. But it was just a really interesting encounter. Now, the first thing that happened was the guy just beeline for the life Custos and killed him in half a second.
Right.
And there's nobody else there that can revive people, so there's no more healer. So it was basically 4 warriors versus this big super warrior. And we didn't win. It was bad, but it was just a really amazing encounter. The way that they brought this huge cast out, and they really got into it. People were, all dressed up. The people look good. It was an interesting story. You kind of line to it. This is the first time we ever saw this guy, and he was the jerk that he's supposed to be. Every once in a while he'd just be like, AOE 10-foot death. And just to mess with people. And so, but it was definitely a lot of fun. It was a really interesting encounter. And so I definitely remember that and had a lot of fun with that. So that was one of the fun ones that we did. There was just so much stuff. I can tell you, there's this one day that I had where I played 2 or 3 of my different old NPCs. This samurai, I'll make it pretty quick. I was playing my first character. I came in to play my first character for a little while to help out one of the owners.
Right.
He wanted to play an illegal caster as an NPC just to kind of see what it was like. So he was playing a Highlander. So I was like, he's like, why don't you come and play your Highlander too? And we'll just run around together. And so we did. And he, people knew me, and I got pulled aside by one of the other guys on plot, and he was playing his character before he went on to plot. And long story short, like his character gets drunk, and he's also like very much of a knight. In fact, he's kind of based off of Jaime from Game of Thrones.
Right.
And he challenges me to a duel. So at this point, again, we're fairly low level, and I know that I didn't buy read write, and I was able to afford to get death blow, and I know that he had read write, so he couldn't have death blow. So we do our duel, and I kill him. And I was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like, I don't, this is not my thing." And I let people know I don't want to do this. But he started drinking sweet tea, pretending it was like alcohol, and he's like, "No, I got to do this." And he was really role playing, like, he was like, if I win this fight, then your Norse invaders can't come down and raid my lands again, and that sort of thing. Right. I'm not sure how many people actually watched that part, but we were sitting in the tavern, kind of going through it, and I was watching him role play just between the 2 of us. I was like, all right, sure, okay. And so we go outside. We have this duel, and the other reason why I'm there is there was actually like a little festival where there was a fighting competition. Right. So we had the duel, and I used my big death blow thing and kill him. And then a little bit later, his brother, who's the head of plot. So this was just to. So this was Sean, the first person. Yep. That I kill. And I'm not saying it was easy. There was a little bit of a dance to the duel. Then his in-play brother, Chris, the second person we interviewed, it's like, hey man, I didn't really want to do it, but I'm just going to tell you, like, honestly, between us, he forced my hand. It's either my life or his. So sorry, but that's the deal. Anyway, we're all of a sudden, as I'm talking to him, like, my Highlander guy gets caught casting corruption. And they grab him, and now the knights of the town, they have him. And so the knights, again, they're also Highlanders,
Right.
Kind of like me. I'm just Norse versus where they're more Celtic.
Right.
So I kind of get in. So they're like, I was like, hey, he's one of my guys. Look, I realize it's not legal here. I'll take care of it. We'll leave, whatever. They're like, no, we're going to kill him. Like, no, you don't understand. This is my guy. You're not going to kill him. And so it's me. And then it's about 10 people in the town guard.
Right.
And one of them that's standing with them is actually one of the people from this Emerald Blade that we were with.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting there, and like I said, it's me. I've got like I've got a mace, and I got like I don't remember if I have my shield or not.
Right.
And it's, again, this military guy, he's totally cool with confrontation. He's a nice guy. But he's playing his character, and I was like, no.
Very serious. He's very serious about the fact that I got to kill this guy.
Exactly. And so I was like, no, you're not going to do it. And I didn't care that there's 10 people behind him. It didn't bother me.
Right.
And the funny thing was, one of the guys with him, who's like, honestly, like, on our side, he's standing next to him, and he's got a big pole on. And he like reaches over another person and hits me twice in the shoulder. He's like, 10 normal. And I just look at him. And he stops attacking me. And I'm like, all right, okay, is that all you're going to do? And he stopped. Like, he just stopped. And finally, I was just like done with it. I slayed the guy in front of me twice because my death bolt was already gone. And so he dropped, and then everybody started attacking me. And, it didn't matter if I dropped anybody, they got back up. But long story short, they let me back up because they wanted me to play in the duel, or not the duel, in the actual fighters competition.
Right.
So in the fighters competition, I get to like the second to last round, and I'm fighting against this one guy. Again, he's the other second in charge guy.
Right.
And he basically says, and the first thing he does is he runs up and death blows me. And I don't have my way out of it because I'd used it. You could either use death blow as a riposte.
Right. Death
blow at the time. So he kills me. And later I was like, you didn't really have to do that. And he was like, dude, I'm scared of fighting you. And I was like, okay. So long story short, after that, they take me out of town with the guy I was with. No big deal. We leave.
Right.
Later that day, I come back, and I'm actually playing my character, who's the Sylvan guy.
Right.
So we go on this encounter. And on the encounter, I don't know that much about it, but I'm with, again, the evil guy and my whole group of people that we're normally with. And we go through this encounter, and it's really weird. There's like, it's in a module building at H. Stevens. And so there's like hands that got to hit. There's a little area. I hate when they do this, but they basically kind of put a tarp, and you have to crawl under the tarp. So now you get all your stuff dirty.
Right.
And so other people were going in front of me because they were warriors. Now at this time, I'm playing my mage again. So there's these like gargoyles in the room. And so a few people, they get in, and by the time they stand up, they're getting beat pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And so I was still underneath the thing, and I was just tapping the guy, like hitting his foot with my spell packet. And finally they call a hold. I'm like, I hit you for like 300 points of damage. And he's like, didn't even realize I was there. Because I was still kind of under the cover thing. But anyway, long story short, we get to the next room, and there's been little messages in here, and there's weird stuff going on. Don't really understand. Or it says something about like lifing the door.
Right.
Don't really know what that is. It's kind of strange. Again, I'm not playing like a big Norse guy. I'm playing, someone that's a little bit more, smarter, like a mage, that sort of thing, but still didn't quite capture everything that was going on. And so we wound up the elf with us, or the bad guy, kind of gets sucked in through the door.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think he comes back. I don't know. There's like something weird happened. And then all of a sudden, this weird samurai guy comes out. Now, it's kind of told the stories a little bit backwards. You guys heard me talk about this big void battle fight. Well, so this same samurai comes out. This is the first time we ever see him, the time there.
Right.
And so this dude walks through the door. We don't even know what's going on. We just start attacking him. And so there's like 6 or 7 of us in the room. And he calls it hold after like 20 seconds. And he's like, okay, what did you hit me with? And I forgot what the first person says. And he's like, okay, got it. He's then my friend, and I'll call him out, Ricky. He's like, what'd you hit me with? He's like 320s. And he's like, repose. He's like, well, crap, I'm dead. So he kind of died in the hole trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay.
And then it went through 2 or 3 other people. And he was like, okay, dodge this. So he was doing stuff that typically you had to be of multiple classes to do, but he was doing it all as one, as this weird samurai guy.
Right.
And he gets to me, and I was like, I threw again 300 lightnings, and he's like, dodge. Okay. And then we're like, all right. And then 3, 2, 1, lay on, and we keep doing stuff. And basically he takes it all and just kind of goes back through the door. Through this weird door that we can't get it.
Right.
Long story short, we convince our healer, or our healer's convinced to life the door.
Right.
Which is a weird thing in and of itself. And there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background of what's going on here. But so we finally get in, and so at this point it's dark. And sitting on top of this table is the guy that Sean is playing.
Right.
And it's really dark, so it's really kind of hard to see the makeup, but there's like greens and blacks and stuff like that.
Yes.
And he kind of goes through this whole spiel. I gotta be honest, I didn't really know or understand at the time what he was saying.
Right.
And then him and the samurai guy disappear. All right. I was like, well, I guess we win. I don't know. Do we set another bad guy free again?
Well, there was a trend through Legends. It was like, let's go in and attack evil, and we set the bad guy free.
Yeah.
Like unintended consequence, but it's okay.
Yeah. And so the interesting. So now this is still the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's dark, and then they had me come back and play my Highlander guy, my character, and they're like, all right, now you're mad and you're attacking the town.
Right.
So it's me, the original corruption guy.
Yep.
We had 2 more NPCs with us.
Right.
And so we're going out, and the way that things worked at that time, we got like all of our mana and combat points, like I think at night back. So we go in, and I'm playing him again, and we like go over by the Mages Academy, and I always love messing with the Mages Academy. But we kind of surround the Mages Academy, kind of inadvertently, even though there's 4 of us. And there are some people that were trying to leave, and they're like, if you leave, and once you step out, you step out. And so we scared a lot of people in.
Right.
But I had one of my guys from my team. So my first character and my second character were all part of the same team.
Right.
That had also just been on that same module. And he was like, so one of my guys, he plays kind of this gypsy guy. And he was like, can I just like give you a hug? I'm like, what? And we're like 20 feet apart, and he's behind a fortress. And he's like, yeah, I just want to kind of come out and give you a hug. I'm like, all right, let's just leave your weapon there. Mm-hmm. Now, he was the guy that I also talked about that was playing the life Custos. So
right.
If he didn't have his weapon, there was little he could really do. So he came out and he actually gave me a hug, and he went back in. And so that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
So we went through, we found other people, we beat down, dropped a bunch of people. We ran into Chris and Sean, who were playing some goblins.
Right.
And so we convinced the goblins into helping us as these Norse guys. So again, we were at H. Stevens, and there was this one little cabin that was kind of being used as like a little tavern.
Right.
And we came with this plan that the goblins, and we kind of pay them. The goblins were going to chase them, the Norse guys.
Right.
And then the people that were in the tavern were going to come out. They were going to help the Norse guys kill the goblins. The plan was that actually the Norse guys were also going to turn and they were going to kill the PCs as well.
Right.
And then I was going to come, like, I didn't want them to see me saying they knew me. So my other Norse NPCs, they go running, and then the goblins go running, and there's a little bit of a bridge just the way that it's laid out, and they are backed up against the fortress, and they're fighting the goblins, and they're obviously not doing a good job.
Right.
Then all the PCs jump out, and then the Norse guys jump on the PCs. The goblins are fighting the PCs, and the PCs are starting to go down real fast, to the point where I'm like running over the bridge to also attack the PCs. Like, the PCs were going to be dead before I even got there.
Right.
I just wanted to attack them too, just because of what we're doing. So that was a interesting thing that happened there. Because I think we killed all the PCs. So that was again part of the same night. And then there's this one last part that's also really interesting. So again, this is one of the first times kind of doing some plot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And after this happens, we walk back around town, and I see the guy in green that we just let go when I was playing my other character. I was the samurai guy,
Mm-hmm.
and this woman that was on the EB, all walking together.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the character that I'm playing has no idea of what we just did as our PCs, but he knows who she is. So, he walks up and he's got like his 3 guys with him, and there's like some weird dude with the green face and the samurai guy. Again, he doesn't know any of these people. And he asks her, he's like, "Are you all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And then, I kind of look to Sean, who's playing the green guy,
Right.
the green black guy, like, he's like, "Let's just play." All right. So I play out the character, and the only one there that actually had any weapons was the samurai guy. So I walk up to the samurai guy. I'm like, "Hey, buddy, what's going on? Where are you guys going?" He doesn't respond. Ask him, another time. The other guy in the green doesn't really say anything. The friend, she doesn't really know what's going on. So I start attacking the samurai guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit him for probably a good, so I was calling 10s. I probably hit him like 10 times. At no point did he raise his weapons to stop me. Did he attempt to block? He just stood there and let me hit him.
Right.
And I got the impression I wasn't really making too much of a dent. And I was like, well, if you can take all that, I guess she's safe. So I was like, have her back by midnight, and just walked away. I didn't really know what else to do. She seemed to be okay. I couldn't kill this guy. I assumed it, but I got the feeling that he would probably protect her if there was an issue. And so then we went on terrorizing the town a little bit more. And I think at one point I heard we were chasing some people, didn't realize that there were people that were already in our group, or that I was friends with prior to. So chase them down, we beat them down, and then we realized, oh crap, they're friends of ours, so we heal them back up. And I think 2 of the other people escaped and were hiding, and they're like laying in the brush and stuff like that. And they were like, thank goodness, like, we didn't catch them, although we wouldn't have done anything. But so all this stuff happened in one day, and that was again a really fun, interesting day that I had as part of Legends.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Full event.
I'm sorry?
It was a very full event.
Yeah. So again, that was just I don't remember what happened. I don't remember what happened for the rest of the event, but that was a lot of fun. Actually, I think that might have been an event that on Sunday, I think we created a haven at the site. And so again, I was playing Liam, the Silva guy. And we had, I don't know if he was playing Lucia or if he was playing this Ogum guy. I think he was playing this Ogum guy. And it was me. You might have been there.
Right. Probably because my Sylvan was involved in the groves, and we were making the network of the groves, basically. It's
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and Lane was there as I can't believe I just forgot his name.
Was he there as Nightshade? Because he was
Nightshade. It's
Yep,
Nightshade.
Yep.
And so, just because I remember, we were just sitting there, and we're talking and stuff, and role playing, and trying to create this haven, basically like this. In Legends, they basically had wasn't necessarily grid, but they had this ley line type of system.
Yep.
And and not just did they have like a general magic ley lines, but they had ley lines for each of these 3 different laws. And actually, we also had what we called master lists as well, which were elemental, mind, and forces. But so we were creating this haven, which would go onto the nature ley line or set of ley lines as a spot where people could teleport to this new place. Right. And so as we were building, as part of it was we had this little dagger, and we had to like give like 1 little point of blood or 1 little health to help feed the tree to get it to grow big and stuff like that. Yeah. And so we're all going around the circle, and Lane's like the last, or Night's the last person. And so he goes and he cuts himself with a little dagger, ceremonial dagger. He like puts the blood in, and then he like stares at the dagger, horrified, and he like falls over. And it was just like, what just happened to him? What is he doing? He's just always doing stuff.
And it's Lane, so you have no idea at this point. Like, this could be plot directed. This could be Lane messing around. You don't know.
And so that was a lot of fun, just kind of remembering that.
Yeah.
So, that was definitely a big memory. But those are actually all from pretty early in the game. There's another story. A couple. There's one we went to Jarrell. So this other one is so we talked about the Void. The Void's bad. There's a whole other set to the Void. So the Void basically kind of, for lack of a better term, has like these demons and stuff like that. But there's also these other things called Nether Elves. Yep. Which are just the elven kind of version. They don't subscribe to the rest of the Void. So basically, the way the Void works is it's based upon the number 5. And so if the 5 different Void Lords get summoned, then it eats the world and that sort of thing. Right. And so like the first one is a beholder. And his name's Thrax. Then the second one, and Chris Dotson actually talked about this because he played him, was this thing called Gavel Surtex. Yep. He was the mouth, and he was the one that would try to convince other people to come join the Void.
Right. He recruited.
Then what was the third one? Was it the dragon?
I think so, because the dragon was pretty early on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So the third one was the dragon. So we actually and what would happen is on these big Void Spice, if we didn't kill the thing, then this would come. Right. And got to the point where I think we had 4 of the demon lords or of the nether lords out. Right. And actually, what was really interesting, we're going to tell this other story first. When I was on tier 4, I was playing this NPC, and I was talking to a friend of ours, but she was in your group, and she also everybody loved Lane, and she was concerned because she felt like Lane wasn't having enough fun. Lane wanted to be the bad guy, but he was also playing a Sylvan, so he couldn't do the necromancy stuff. Right. And so they're like, is there a way you can do something that's just not necromancy, but still kind of on the dark side? Because he would really love that. And
necromancy got a lot of attention in the beginning because it's the cool school, right? Death and corruption, sure, but necromancy. So yeah.
So I came in. So I wrote up this NPC, but she had mentioned it to me, and I was on tier 4, and so I was like, okay, sure, I love Lane. Lane, if we can entertain Lane and keep him happy, he'll entertain so many more people. Right,
your dividends, it will pay dividends for you. He will pull people in.
Exactly. So I wrote up this character. It was just like some human mage. I came up with the name Hexus. They're like, you can't use the name Hexus. I was like, I can't use that name. They're like, yeah, it's already used for something else. I'm like, what is it used for? I'm like, sorry, you're not tier 5. I can't tell you. Later, I found out before we got to summoning the 5th, the Nether Dragon thing. Yeah, its first name is Hexus. Right. It was just funny that I picked that. But so I changed it to this guy named Hexen. Basically, long story short, I come in, find Lane. He's doing his old crotchety thing, and he's like, "I'll curse you." don't mess with me. I'm like, ooh, what do you got? It's like, I don't have that many curses. I've got, more abomination. That's kind of my thing. And he's like, what? I'm like, I like to abominate stuff. But I have a few curses, if you want to trade or see what you compare. And he was like, wait, what? And so he kind of went back to his like regular kind of person, or he went to a little bit more serious, like, wait, there's stuff. And I was like, yeah, come, let's talk. And so I kind of walked over to his side and basically kind of created this character for him to interact with. And I remember I like came back maybe the next event, and I think I might have had something for him. But we were going into your cabin. I'm not again, and I was talking to, at the time it was ISIS, and I kind of made something up, and I don't know if I should have or I shouldn't have. But again, this is supposed to be playing this kind of kooky old dude, and so she had said something about this guy named Selden. Selden was the head of the matriarchy.
Yes. Yes.
That was also played by Chris Dodson. And so she said something about this guy. So I was like, oh, I know him.
Yeah.
I was like, he actually has a tattoo with a magic diagram on his right butt cheek.
Yes.
And she's like, what? She's like, how would you know that? I'm like, I'm his older brother.
Right.
And I just made it up just on the spot. And she's like, no way, whatever. And I was like, yep. It's like,
but you were the black sheep of the family.
Right. So then, and that was kind of as I was leaving, I left that and kind of mic dropped and kind of left. So when I got back to the podcast, I said, hey, Chris, FYI, this is what I did.
I did a thing.
Yeah, I did a thing. Now, if you don't want to do it, it's just really simple. That's just some old crazy guy that says he's your thing. Or he really is in his real story.
There you go.
And so we turned it into a story.
Right.
And wound up being this really bad guy, or he was kind of bad. He was kind of not, like, he was able to reason people into thinking that he wasn't necessarily bad. He was just trying to fix certain things. And we turned the Mages Academy into a giant anus for a little while. Now, a lot of this stuff I actually wasn't living in Georgia for. So I would kind of come into town. I moved away for a year or two to raise my kid. And so I would come back and they'd be like, this is what you're doing this week. And I was like, all right. And to be honest, so I actually wound up having a niece because she was related to Selden. So Selden was my younger brother. So she's related to me. And so I went and had a conversation with her. And we did this terrible thing. We abominated her, which basically what it did is it flipped your health total with your mana total. It wasn't beneficial at all. She was a mage with like 600 mana. Now, and she had maybe like 20 or 30 body. Now all of a sudden she's got 600 body and 20 or 30 mana. It really wasn't helpful for her. But this is just kind of the thing that he would do. Yep. And like if she watches this, like, I apologize that we kind of did that stuff. I really feel horrible about it. It wasn't what I wanted to do. Right. So it happened between world system turns. She kind of got into a lot of trouble for dealing with me. She didn't really get that much of a benefit. So I really do apologize. It wasn't really my idea. But he ran around for a long time, did a lot of different things, some good, some bad. It was fun to play. Let's see, what are some of the other stories? Again, I'm trying to do like real stories. That I kind of hit most of the ones I really wanted to tell. There's one other story that I kind of want to tell, and this is from Second Dawn. So Second Dawn came a couple of years. No, it came directly after Legends. So actually, we were running Second Dawn and Legends at the same time for a little while. Yeah,
they ran side by side for a little while, and then Second Dawn outlasted after.
Right. So, Second Dawn, when we originally started the game, it was meant to only run for 3 years. Right. So I signed up to be one of the writers for the first 3 years, and one of the groups that we had in town, we were called the Exawa. Exawa were cat people, and I wound up running this one group. They're called the Children of Trial. Trial was the name of my first character back in Solar. Most people didn't know that, but that's kind of where I got the name. And basically, the whole idea was that they worked with other people. They were kind of like this whole thing of like a Jedi and a Padawan. Now, it wasn't like this master apprentice sort of relationship. It was more of two people are stronger than one, and you can have, you know, different things that go together when you have these people that are doing things. So like if you're a so like if one's a warrior, one's a healer, then if they within a few feet of each other, they get additional like bonuses and stuff like that.
Right.
That's what we're going for. And so they were kind of going down that route. We were trying to get them different rituals, and we had this thing called Lost Arts where people could learn the abilities to do things that you wouldn't normally be able to do.
Right.
Lost Arts wound up getting way out of hand, but so this is one of my favorite encounters I ever ran. And so again, if you've listened for this long, sorry, we're now an hour and 50 minutes in, but I'm going to try to make this quick. So I took the movie The Hangover and turned it into an encounter, and it's a little difficult at a LARP. So basically what happened was I went to them and told them ahead of time that Friday night we're going to meet and we're going to go and play as soon as we go and play, you know, as soon as possible, as soon as they call it, but we're going to be up at their cabin, and that it's not actually going to be Friday night. It's going to be Thursday night. So basically we were there the night before. So, so it's kind of weird, but so I was there with the guy that was like the guy I was bonded to. I forgot who it was. And basically we all had some wine, and we talked a little bit. We joked around, and after like 10 minutes, I called a hold. And then, okay. What I wound up doing is I took them and I moved them to different, so we were at Hard Labor Creek, and they were in like town two, so not Shadow off town, but the town over. Or if you played Solar, the sub-beer town, the one over, so that second from the left. And so I grabbed, and I got permission ahead of time for this one, but I got a dog collar and I printed like property of this NPC's name, and put it onto this one woman, and her husband also plays, and they said it was okay ahead of time. Right. So again, they're all cats. And so now all of a sudden she had a collar with a property of, and so again, they didn't know what was going on. I had her put that on. I had her kind of, she was willing to kind of climb a tree a little bit. And I moved one person over here. And all of a sudden I brought out like two other NPCs from different places that they couldn't see. And then basically so I moved everybody around. And so her husband, he actually was in the military. He was a Marine. He was in Okinawa. He actually speaks Japanese. One of my NPCs, his heritage, he has Japanese heritage, and he speaks Japanese. Right. And so I had him there too. And so I put them in the same room. And so all these different people, all different places, but pretty close to to this one area. And I called a Leon. Mm-hmm. Basically, they're waking up and they're kind of drunk and just they don't know anything else that's going on. And so basically what happened was, over the course of this first encounter of meeting this one weird dude who wasn't speaking English, was only speaking Japanese. The funny part was that when he was speaking Japanese, one guy actually understood him. And so and like, I don't know how he did it, but, and I really like this person. I haven't spoken to him unfortunately in years, but he brought his like, he had like a Japanese robe. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I don't really know how we got to this point, but he had like this weird, the Japanese underwear, and he started running around and just anyway. But everyone was trying to figure out kind of what just happened, and so it was no longer Thursday night. Right. Basically, they got drunk. Mm-hmm. They kind of went through the whole day, and now it was actually Friday night again, kind of like that whole the hangover thing. So we did this hangover thing, and throughout the course of the event, we had NPCs that would come out and say stuff to them that they didn't really understand.
The stuff that happened that they don't remember, but the NPC is like,
exactly. So like one of the guys, he was known for being a little bit shy. So sometimes when we'd have, some of the girls come, like they'd be like, hey, and kind of a little flirty and being like, hey, do you remember this other thing? And obviously he doesn't know. So, then all of a sudden, they got really mad about this collar that would not come off on this one woman, and so again, it's a property of this guy's character's name was Hob, or NPC. So he was our head of plots NPC. Right. So he knew that he was going to kind of have to deal with this when he came in, and so it was just really I think they had a lot of fun.
Right.
Just figuring out what happened, what was going on. The guy of Japanese descent that was played by a friend, he wound up teaching them. They all had claws. He was basically a master smith, and he taught them how to silver their claws so they can call additional damage or stuff like that. And they all had a lot of fun, but at first it was a little like, what the hell just happened? And so I don't know, my point is that you can get all sorts of ideas for encounters from all different places.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And there's another thing I did that I've always been a big fan of Indiana Jones on the Last Crusade.
Right.
Kind of like where they're going to meet the wise man. And so I ran a big encounter that kind of you had to step on the letters that spelled out a name.
Yep.
And do like a somersault and do some other stuff. And so long story short, I've been LARPing since 1994, so about 28 years. And the last 2 years, I really haven't done much.
Right.
I have helped 3 different games write rulebooks.
Yep.
One of them is still there. The other one basically went a different direction, and the third one, they're still kind of figuring it out.
Right.
This is an amazing hobby, which is why I want to do this whole thing. Obviously, you've heard me now tell stories for 2 hours. I could probably go on for a little bit longer, but I appreciate Debbie's time, and I don't really want to do that to anyone else. But it's an amazing hobby, and I'll probably still continue to do it. Like I said, my daughter, she's looking forward to doing it. I know that you've got a son. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, he's 12 right now, so it consists of the backyard and hitting with Boffer weapons right now. We'll see.
But it's a great way to meet new people, to get exercise, and to really just expand your imagination. And also, like we've seen in a lot of these things, a lot of people learn how to talk in front of smaller groups of people or even larger groups. It helps a lot in social, different ways of social. I personally have a bag off the side of different little trinkets I've got from different points. Some of these things are over 20 years old.
Yep.
From different encounters that just mean something to me.
Mm-hmm.
LARPing has, definitely put a stamp on me, and I've really enjoyed it. And so if anyone actually does watch this, let alone this far, definitely check it out, and don't do that whole thing about worried about being plot fucked. Go meet people, go introduce yourself, try and get involved. You'll get a lot out of it, or you can get a lot out of it. So that's a little bit more of kind of what I wanted to say. Trying to think of some of the other typical questions. I don't really have LARP dreams anymore because I don't really play that much. Mm-hmm. Again, some of the skills that I've learned from LARPing, again, is kind of assessing situations and where people really are, really what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to make this quick. I know it's been forever.
Oh, you're fine.
What else have I? Again, speaking with people, again, being paranoid at certain times. Mm-hmm. I feel like I could always kind of tell when people are behind me, just because I got murdered so many times. So it's definitely taught me to be a little bit less trusting. But the stories were just amazing. And there's all different types of games, and you'll find the ones that work for you. But it definitely meant a lot to me. Where do I see LARPs going? So I'm also really big into Disney, and I know that Disney's doing the whole Galaxy Star Cruiser thing, which is like, I think it's 5,000 for 2 people, or 6,000 for 4. So
crazy price point, right? Like, not everybody going to be able to do that.
Right. And so they actually right now, because I do, I have another page for Disney stuff that I do. There are videos of, you can watch people. I think it technically just went live like a couple of days ago, or it's about to go live in the next week. But they have a lot of media go through there to take videos to let people know what's going on, and there's definitely interesting stuff. Clearly, we don't have Disney level budgets, let alone hotels for people to stay in for 2 nights. We run out of fairly expensive, parks that we rent from the state. I mean, it's still nearly $2,000 from my understanding, maybe more for some. But I know other people have looked at warehouses.
Yep.
A lot of people always talk about buying land and doing stuff. I know that, and Amanda mentioned this, that they are trying to bring some of the European LARPs over where you might actually see thousands of people versus thousands of people.
Yep.
So one of the people I've been talking to, he's talked a lot about that. And we were looking at different sites where we could run it, but he's one of the people that's involved. Like I said, I've been kind of helping a couple of different games because I just want to see more games, more options. So I think there's a lot that's going to come of it, especially ending of COVID. Games are starting to come back around, and people, Hawkeye, they talk about LARPing in like 4 out of the 6 episodes. So I think you might see a big influx. Over at LFG Nexus, we're going to give LARPs the ability to get a free page. It's only lasts for a little while. Normally we charge money for business pages, but I do want to try and help them. Also, because I'd love to get the LARP events onto our calendar so people can find different LARPs that are in their area. So again, put that out probably next Monday. If you hear from me, if you're interested earlier, if you run a LARP and want to get onto the LFG Nexus platform, just let me know. Just shoot an email over to info@lfgnexus.com. Again, one of the big things that I would tell people that are new to LARPing is, get involved. Also, get to site early. I nearly got lost. And some of these places, you get trip and fall into a hole. Like, you got to be kind of careful in some of these places. I mean, I've heard of people getting hurt sometimes, kind of bad, like breaking legs and stuff like that.
Yep.
I've seen a few people that didn't realize it, but walked into like a nest of like wasps, or maybe it was hornets. It was something bad, and like they had to go to the hospital. So just kind of be careful of your surroundings. Is there anything that I missed?
Nope, I think you hit pretty much everything. It's good.
Cool. Well, yeah. So guys, check out that lfgnexus.com thing. It's a whole social media platform, for people, all different types of gamers. And, that's all that I really had. I mean, again, LARPing it meant a lot to me for a long time. And again, I'm still friends with like 80 to 90% of those people. And, we met, 2 or 3 years into me starting playing. I mean, so, and even though people don't see each other super often, we can always come back and have some of these memories. And so that's to me what it's really about, which is also why we created LFG Nexus, to help create more memories, create relationships like these LARP relationships that we've had.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to give you and kind of go back to host for a second. Is there anything that you, thank you for doing this, especially for so long. Is there anything that you would like to pitch again one last time?
Nope. Again, nope. I'm not involved right now. That might change, but I'm not involved in any LARPing. The real world stuff takes precedence right now. So nope. But I think you're doing a great thing with LFG Nexus. I think you're going to make it happen for sure. Like it's the whole entrepreneurial thing, it's a lot of hustle until you make it. So good on you for the work you're doing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that I'm doing this. I've had a lot of different ideas in the past. Like I can't stop thinking about stuff. Mm-hmm. But doing the LFG Nexus is definitely one that I wanted to do, and it's a huge undertaking what we're doing. But we're in a good spot. We got a lot of stuff that's going on, and so we're really excited about that. And again, just to impress upon people, go check out LARPing. It's so much fun. You'll really enjoy it. Just go, with an open mind, and make sure you have comfortable clothing, especially footwear. You'll probably be exhausted on Sunday, especially if it's your first couple of times. So be ready for being sore, like in places where you wouldn't have thought. But Debbie, if you don't mind holding on, everybody else, thank you so much. Right now, I don't know what I'm going to do with this broadcast. This was fun. I'm glad I got to kind of share my stuff. And I'm not sure if we're going to continue. I have some people that are interested in doing it, but I'm not sure if I want to excuse me, pivot and kind of go to something else. Or I will definitely go to something else. I'm not sure if it'll be LARP related or not, but just kind of keep an eye out. And thank you everybody for watching, or if you're watching the next day, let me know. Just say hi, or if you remember one of the stories or whatnot, let me know. Anyway, thanks guys. Have a great night, and again, check out LFG Nexus. Take care.